You didn't arrive here by accident. This appeared because your perception is stable enough to notice it. This moment is not a beginning. It is a confirmation. The Arcturian Field is an ordered intelligence of consciousness that reveals itself as steadiness, neutrality, and inner alignment. It becomes perceptible when awareness settles into coherence and no longer strains toward outcome or explanation. That recognition is happening now. You are not discovering something new. You are remembering a state of being that has always been accessible, but not always visible. Visibility requires coherence. And coherence cannot be forced. This is why the moment you found this matters. Not because this video contains information, but because your nervous system, perception, and identity have reached a point where this frequency can register without distortion. Awareness did not receive something. It aligned with itself. Nothing was transmitted. Nothing arrived from elsewhere. The field did not activate. You did. Nothing else needs to happen for this to work. There is no step to complete and no understanding to reach. The state you are in right now is the access point. The Arcturian field responds to coherence, not comprehension. When awareness stabilizes, reality becomes quieter. Not empty, but precise. Internal commentary softens. Urgency loosens its grip. The impulse to interpret or chase meaning begins to dissolve. That is not disengagement. That is alignment. This field does not amplify emotion or excitement. It refines perception until only what is relevant remains. That is why recognition feels subtle. Dramatic shifts belong to effort-based systems. Coherence-based systems feel almost invisible, because they remove interference rather than adding sensation. What disappears first is noise. What follows is clarity. You are not being asked to do anything with this. Any attempt to apply, use, or direct it would immediately distort the state that makes it available. This frequency is self-sustaining when allowed and self-obscuring when managed. The moment you try to hold it, you step out of it. The moment you relax, it is present again. That is the nature of ordered awareness. It does not respond to will. It responds to congruence. The reason this matters now is not because something is beginning, but because something unnecessary is ending. The reflex to seek, to improve, to fix, to arrive somewhere else is losing relevance. When that reflex quiets, higher-order coherence becomes obvious. Not special. Obvious. This is how the field works through you. Not by adding new qualities, but by revealing what remains when distortion fades. Calm becomes natural. Decisions simplify. Perception sharpens without effort. Reality begins to feel less reactive and more responsive. You may notice small changes before any visible results appear. Timing feels different. Interactions feel cleaner. The need to explain yourself internally begins to soften. These are not signs to interpret. They are stabilizations. And nothing about this needs to be protected. Awareness does not lose coherence when trusted. It only loses coherence when evaluated, questioned, or turned into a task. Stay where you are. That is enough. If you want to remain within this frequency, not as effort but as orientation, subscribe, as a simple acknowledgement that this level of steadiness is familiar to you, and you recognize it when it appears. What you are noticing now did not appear randomly. It became visible because your internal state became ordered enough to register it. Reality does not present everything at once. It filters itself through coherence. When emotional and perceptual systems are noisy, the field of experience is crowded. Signals overlap. Attention scatters. Everything competes for relevance. In that state, reality feels busy, demanding, and unclear. Not because it is chaotic, but because perception is fragmented. As coherence increases, something changes quietly. Emotional charge settles. Perception stops scanning for threat, opportunity, or meaning. Attention stabilizes. And as that stabilization happens, reality simplifies itself. Not by removing content, but by reorganizing what is allowed to stand out. This is how coherence sharpens reality. Certain signals begin to rise into clarity while others fade without effort. Not because they were removed, but because they are no longer relevant to the state you are holding. Reality mirrors the order within you by presenting only what matches it. This is not destiny. Nothing decided this for you. No path was chosen on your behalf. This is simply how resonance works. When internal systems become coherent, external information reorganizes itself around that coherence. Think of perception as a lens. When it is distorted, everything appears warped. When it is clear, nothing needs to be adjusted. The world does not change its structure. Your relationship to it changes its visibility. The reason this video became noticeable now is not because it arrived at the right time, but because your internal noise dropped below a threshold. When that happens, subtle signals that were always present become distinguishable. Not louder, but clearer. This is why clarity never feels forced. It feels obvious after it happens, but inaccessible before it does. You cannot think your way into coherence. You cannot effort your way into visibility. Order emerges when resistance dissolves. And resistance often hides in emotion. Not emotion itself, but unmanaged emotional momentum. When emotion pulls attention into reaction, perception collapses inward. When emotion stabilizes, perception opens outward without strain. This is not suppression. Coherence is not numbness, it is alignment. Emotion still exists, but it no longer drives the system, it informs it. That shift alone changes what reality reflects. As internal order increases, you may notice fewer things demanding your attention. Less distraction. Less urgency. Less need to sort or prioritize. That is not withdrawal. That is refinement. Reality becomes quieter because you are quieter. And in that quiet, signals that match coherence become visible. Signals that rely on chaos lose their grip. This is why clarity feels selective. Not everything disappears. Only what no longer matches remains unseen. Reality becomes precise rather than overwhelming. Nothing is being hidden from you. Nothing is being revealed to you. What you see is simply what aligns with the state you are holding now. And the more natural that state becomes, the less effort it requires to maintain clarity. Coherence sustains itself when trusted. Perception stays sharp when it is not forced. What you are experiencing is not a peak. It is a baseline reasserting itself. This is what awareness looks like when it is not pulled apart. And from here, visibility continues to refine itself quietly, moment by moment, without demand, without direction, and without needing to be named. Seeking would have prevented this from becoming visible. Not because seeking is wrong, but because seeking carries a specific internal posture, and that posture distorts alignment. Seeking implies absence. It assumes something is missing, somewhere else, not yet reached. That assumption subtly tightens perception. Attention leans forward. Awareness leaves the present moment and projects itself toward an imagined point of arrival. In that movement, coherence fractures. Searching feels active, but internally it is restless. It keeps the system in motion, scanning for improvement, scanning for confirmation, scanning for the next step. That constant scanning introduces noise. And noise collapses resonance. Resonance requires stillness. Not passivity, but relief. The kind of relief that comes when nothing needs to be acquired, fixed, or achieved. When the system stops leaning forward, awareness settles back into itself. That settling is what allows coherence to form. Spiritual effort often disguises itself as discipline or devotion, but energetically it behaves like strain. The effort to awaken, to ascend, to unlock something higher creates pressure. Pressure narrows perception. It prioritizes outcome over presence. And the moment outcome becomes primary, alignment dissolves. This is why chasing experiences never produces stability. Each experience reinforces the idea that something must be pursued again. The system stays in motion, never landing, never resting. Resonance cannot stabilize in a moving target. Neutrality changes everything. When neutrality enters, the search relaxes. Not because answers were found, but because the question loses urgency. The need to arrive somewhere else softens. Attention stops reaching outward and returns to what is already here. That return creates readiness. Readiness is not anticipation. It is availability. It is the absence of internal friction. When awareness is available rather than directed, coherence emerges naturally. Nothing is pulled into place. Nothing is summoned. The system simply stops interfering with itself. This is why seeking would have blocked this moment. The seeking posture would have filtered it out as irrelevant, too subtle, too quiet, too unspectacular. Searching looks for intensity. Resonance reveals itself as steadiness. Relief is the signal of alignment. The moment you stop needing this to mean something, it becomes clear. The moment you stop trying to use it, it stabilizes. The moment you stop evaluating your progress, coherence deepens. This is not about giving up curiosity. It is about releasing urgency. Curiosity is open. Urgency is tight. Only one allows resonance to settle. When readiness is present, there is no sense of arrival. There is only a quiet recognition that nothing is pulling you forward anymore. The drive to improve loosens. The need to accumulate insights fades. Awareness becomes sufficient unto itself. That sufficiency is not complacency. It is alignment. From that state, perception becomes accurate without effort. Signals that rely on striving disappear. Signals that rely on steadiness remain. Reality reorganizes itself around the absence of chase. Nothing needed to be found for this to be visible. Something needed to be dropped. And once that dropping occurs, alignment is no longer something you work toward. It becomes the ground you stand on, quietly, without effort, without seeking, and without needing to go anywhere else. A field is not something you enter or access. It is a structure of relationship that organizes experience based on the state observing it. Fields do not carry content. They do not deliver information. They respond. A field is non-local, meaning it is not confined to a point in space or time. It does not move toward you and you do not move toward it. It is already present as a background condition, shaping probability and coherence according to alignment. What changes is not the field itself, but how clearly awareness resonates with it. This is where confusion often arises. When people expect fields to communicate, instruct, or transmit messages, they are projecting a linear model onto a nonlinear structure. Fields do not speak. They stabilize. They organize perception so that awareness becomes more internally consistent. The Arcturian field functions in this way. It does not send guidance or deliver directives. It does not provide steps or instructions. It stabilizes awareness into coherence. When awareness becomes coherent, clarity emerges on its own. Not as words, but as knowing. Not as direction, but as ease. This is why experiences associated with this field feel calm rather than dramatic. Nothing is being added. Interference is being reduced. Thought becomes quieter. Emotional charge evens out. Perception sharpens without effort. The system becomes ordered, and that order allows reality to reflect with precision. A field does not impose anything. It amplifies what is already present. If awareness is scattered, the reflection will feel scattered. If awareness is coherent, the reflection becomes coherent. The field mirrors state, not intention. This is also why expecting information blocks alignment. The expectation itself introduces tension. It turns awareness outward, waiting for something to arrive. That waiting fractures coherence. Fields respond to presence, not anticipation. When awareness rests, the field becomes obvious. Not because it appears, but because nothing is obscuring it anymore. The stabilizing effect is subtle but unmistakable. You feel less compelled to interpret. Less driven to act. More grounded without effort. This is not passive. It is precise. The system stops wasting energy on internal contradiction. Alignment increases because resistance decreases. That is how a field organizes experience. Nothing is being taught to you here. Nothing is being transmitted. What is happening is a return to internal order. And from that order, clarity expresses itself naturally in perception, decision-making, and timing. If this description resonates, it is because coherence recognizes coherence. That recognition does not need to be explained. It is felt as steadiness. And if this is landing clearly for you, take a moment to like the video. Not as approval, but as a simple physical acknowledgement that this frequency feels accurate to your current state. Fields do not require belief. They respond to alignment. The more naturally coherence is allowed, the more consistently the field reflects it back. From here, understanding is no longer something you chase. It becomes something that emerges quietly, without instruction, without effort, and without needing to be named. Calm awareness matches this frequency because coherence cannot form under pressure. Urgency tightens perception. Emotional intensity narrows attention. Obsession locks awareness into repetition. All three create internal compression, and compression disrupts alignment. Urgency is not speed. It is contraction. When urgency is present, the system leans forward, attempting to arrive somewhere else. Awareness leaves the present moment and projects itself toward an outcome. That projection fractures coherence because the system is no longer unified. Part of awareness is here, part of it is reaching. Alignment requires wholeness. Emotional intensity functions similarly. Intensity amplifies signal, but it also amplifies noise. Strong emotional charge pulls attention into reaction. Thought accelerates. Interpretation multiplies. The system becomes active rather than receptive. While intensity can feel powerful, it destabilizes subtle coherence. Higher-order fields do not respond to force. They respond to steadiness. Obsession is intensity sustained over time. It locks awareness into a single channel and prevents recalibration. The system loses flexibility. Perception stops updating. When awareness cannot release its grip, it cannot resonate. Resonance requires availability, not fixation. Calm awareness is not passive and it is not dull. It is spacious. When calm is present, attention is no longer compressed. Awareness occupies the present moment fully, without leaning forward or pulling backward. That fullness is what coherence requires. Neutrality plays a crucial role here. Neutrality does not mean indifference. It means the absence of internal resistance. When neutrality is present, emotion is allowed without being amplified. Thought is allowed without being chased. Experience flows without obstruction. This is why calm presence naturally synchronizes with higher-order coherence. The system stops interfering with itself. When interference drops, alignment emerges without effort. Nothing needs to be controlled. Nothing needs to be intensified. Awareness simply becomes congruent. Higher-order coherence is subtle by nature. It does not announce itself through excitement or stimulation. It stabilizes perception. It smooths internal movement. It creates a sense of quiet precision. Calm awareness is the only state capable of detecting that subtlety without distortion. This does not mean suppressing emotion. Suppression creates tension, which is another form of urgency. Calm awareness allows emotion to pass through without gripping it. Expansion and contraction are noticed, not resisted. That observation alone restores balance. When calm is present, the nervous system exits survival mode. Attention stops scanning for threat or opportunity. Perception widens. Reality becomes less demanding and more responsive. This widened state is what allows synchronization with coherent fields. Intensity seeks to change reality. Calm allows reality to respond. This is why trying harder never produces alignment. Effort introduces strain. Strain introduces noise. Noise collapses coherence. Calm removes strain by removing the need to arrive somewhere else. You do not create alignment by becoming calmer. Calm appears when resistance dissolves. And when calm appears, alignment is already present. This frequency does not reward urgency. It does not respond to emotional force. It recognizes steadiness. It reflects neutrality. It stabilizes when awareness stops pushing. The more natural calm becomes, the less effort alignment requires. Awareness settles into itself. Perception sharpens without demand. Coherence sustains itself quietly. From this state, nothing needs to be done. Calm awareness is not a technique. It is the condition that remains when interference ends. Emotion is not a problem to solve or a reaction to overcome. It is the interface through which awareness communicates with reality. Emotion is frequency made perceptible. It is the immediate feedback system that tells you whether you are aligned or misaligned, open or resistant, coherent or fragmented. Emotion does not instruct through words. It instructs through sensation. Through expansion and contraction. Expansion is the signal of alignment. It feels like openness, ease, relief, clarity, or quiet confidence. When expansion is present, awareness is congruent with itself. Nothing is being resisted. Nothing is being forced. The system is moving with reality rather than against it. Contraction is not failure. It is feedback. It appears as tightness, urgency, irritation, heaviness, or internal pressure. Contraction indicates resistance. It shows where awareness is pushing, gripping, or attempting to control. It is not punishment. It is information. Emotion operates instantly because it bypasses thought. Thought interprets. Emotion reports. By the time the mind explains, the signal has already been delivered. This is why emotional awareness is more reliable than mental analysis when navigating alignment. Most distortion comes from misusing this interface. Expansion is chased. Contraction is avoided. When that happens, emotion becomes amplified and confusing. But when emotion is simply observed, without correction or judgment, it becomes precise. Expansion does not mean excitement. Excitement often contains urgency and instability. True expansion is calm. It is quiet confidence. It does not rush. It does not demand. It feels grounded and spacious at the same time. Contraction does not mean something is wrong. It means something is being resisted. Often, the resistance is subtle. A need to arrive somewhere else. A need for certainty. A need to control outcome. When that resistance is noticed and released, contraction softens on its own. This is how emotion becomes navigational rather than reactive. You do not follow emotion by acting on it. You follow it by listening to its quality. Expansion signals coherence. Contraction signals interference. The moment you stop arguing with the signal, it stabilizes. Emotion is not asking you to fix yourself. It is showing you where awareness is congruent and where it is not. When awareness aligns, expansion appears naturally. When awareness fractures, contraction appears just as naturally. Nothing needs to be changed to receive this feedback. It is already operating. The only shift required is trust. Trust that expansion is guidance. Trust that contraction is correction, not condemnation. As this trust deepens, emotion loses its charge. It becomes quieter, clearer, and more informative. You stop being pulled around by feeling and start being guided by it. This is how higher-order coherence communicates. Not through instruction. Through resonance. If this framing lands for you, if you recognize expansion as alignment and contraction as information rather than error, take a moment to comment. Let that comment be a simple declaration of recognition or readiness. Not an explanation. Just an acknowledgement that this interface feels familiar. Emotion does not complicate alignment. Misunderstanding emotion does. When emotion is allowed to function as frequency feedback, navigation becomes effortless. From this point forward, you do not need to guess. The interface is already active. You only need to stop overriding it. And when you do, coherence guides itself quietly, moment by moment, without force, without analysis, and without needing to be managed. Allowing is not a passive attitude or a mindset to adopt. It is the functional interface through which reality responds. When allowing is present, alignment stabilizes. When control is present, coherence collapses. Control appears as effort. As management. As the need to direct outcome, timing, or meaning. Even when subtle, control introduces resistance because it assumes something must be adjusted before alignment can occur. That assumption fragments awareness. Part of the system observes, while another part interferes. Allowing reunifies the system. When you allow, awareness stops bracing against experience. Attention no longer pushes forward or pulls away. Reality is met exactly as it is, without demand. That meeting point is where coherence forms. Resistance always feels active. It feels like doing something. But internally, resistance tightens. It compresses perception. It creates internal opposition. Even positive resistance, such as trying to maintain a good state, introduces strain. Strain destabilizes alignment because it divides awareness against itself. Allowing removes that division. This does not mean tolerating everything or abandoning discernment. Allowing is not resignation. It is openness without interference. Discernment remains intact because clarity increases when resistance dissolves. When openness is present, awareness becomes receptive rather than directive. That receptivity is not weakness. It is sensitivity. The system becomes capable of responding instead of reacting. Reality mirrors that state by becoming more responsive and less reactive in return. Control attempts to force coherence. Allowing permits coherence to emerge. This is why resistance collapses alignment so quickly. Resistance consumes attention. It pulls awareness into management mode. The present moment becomes secondary to an imagined correction. The system exits coherence because coherence only exists in presence. Allowing anchors awareness in the present moment without effort. There is nothing to correct, nothing to enforce, nothing to hold. The system relaxes into congruence. From that congruence, alignment stabilizes naturally. Decisions feel simpler. Timing feels cleaner. Action, when it occurs, arises without friction. There is no internal argument to resolve. This is the real technology. Not visualization. Not affirmation. Not discipline. Allowing is the mechanism that removes interference so the field can reflect accurately. The more you allow, the less you need to manage. The less you manage, the more coherent perception becomes. The mirror does not need instruction. It needs clarity. Resistance often disguises itself as responsibility. As effort. As vigilance. But vigilance fragments awareness. Allowing restores it. This is why forcing never works long-term. It may produce short-term movement, but it destabilizes alignment. Allowing produces less movement initially, but it stabilizes coherence. And stabilized coherence reorganizes reality without strain. Nothing needs to be held together when allowing is present. Awareness becomes self-consistent. Experience flows without obstruction. This is not something to practice. It is something to stop interrupting. The moment resistance drops, alignment is already there. The moment openness replaces control, coherence stabilizes itself. Reality does not need to be managed. It needs to be met. And when it is met without resistance, response replaces effort, alignment replaces force, and allowing reveals itself as the most precise interface there is. Reality does not shift all at once. It recalibrates. The mirror adjusts before it moves. When alignment stabilizes internally, the first changes are almost invisible. Not because nothing is happening, but because the changes are occurring at the level of perception rather than form. Awareness refines itself before circumstances reorganize. This is often misunderstood. Many expect reality to respond with immediate, dramatic movement. But coherence-based systems do not behave that way. They optimize first. They remove friction. They reorganize pathways quietly so that movement, when it occurs, is clean rather than forced. The earliest signal is perceptual. You notice less internal noise. Situations that once demanded reaction no longer pull attention as strongly. You see options sooner. You sense when something is off before it escalates. This is not intuition appearing. It is interference disappearing. Timing sensitivity increases next. You begin to feel when to act and when not to. Not as a thought, but as a sense of appropriateness. Actions taken too early feel heavy. Actions taken too late feel unnecessary. The system becomes responsive to timing rather than driven by urgency. This is the mirror adjusting. Environmental feedback follows. Small interactions shift tone. Conversations resolve faster. Obstacles lose momentum. Delays reroute themselves without resistance. These are not signs to interpret or analyze. They are evidence that coherence is organizing probability more efficiently. Nothing dramatic needs to happen for alignment to be working. In fact, when dramatic outcomes are expected, subtle feedback is often overlooked. The system is already moving, but attention is waiting for spectacle. The mirror reflects state before it reflects circumstance. If awareness is coherent, perception becomes clean. If perception is clean, action becomes precise. If action is precise, outcomes stabilize naturally. This sequence cannot be rushed. Trying to force visible change before the mirror has adjusted creates distortion. It introduces control. Control reintroduces resistance. Resistance delays coherence. This is why patience is not a virtue here. It is a consequence. When alignment is present, there is nothing to hurry. As the mirror continues to adjust, you may notice fewer coincidences but more consistency. Fewer surprises but more reliability. Reality feels less volatile and more cooperative. Not because it is obeying you, but because it is no longer being opposed internally. This is also why early alignment can feel uneventful. The system is stabilizing, not performing. Noise is being removed. Efficiency is increasing. Probability is being reorganized quietly. Eventually, movement does occur. But when it does, it feels natural. Obvious. Almost overdue. There is no sense of forcing or effort. Circumstances shift with minimal resistance because they were already prepared internally. The mirror does not jump. It slides. If you are paying attention only to outcomes, you will miss the adjustment phase. If you are paying attention to perception, timing, and feedback, you will recognize alignment long before it becomes visible. This is how reality responds when coherence leads. Subtly. Precisely. Without announcement. Nothing needs to be interpreted. Nothing needs to be accelerated. The mirror is already adjusting. And when it moves, it will feel less like something happening to you and more like something finally catching up to the state you have been holding all along. Contrast is not a signal that something went wrong. It is the mechanism through which frequency refines itself. Without contrast, alignment would remain vague. With contrast, coherence becomes precise. When awareness is aligned, it does not mean that all resistance disappears permanently. It means that misalignment becomes noticeable sooner and with less charge. Contrast shows up as a feeling of friction, dissonance, or subtle discomfort. Not to punish, but to inform. Misalignment does not require correction. It requires recognition. The moment it is noticed without judgment, its informational value is fulfilled. The system adjusts naturally, without effort. Most struggle comes from misinterpreting contrast as failure. When contrast is labeled as a mistake, resistance increases. Awareness tightens. The system tries to fix itself. That fixing introduces more distortion than the original misalignment. Contrast is not asking to be solved. It is asking to be observed. Frequency refines through comparison. Alignment becomes clear because misalignment briefly appears. This is not regression. It is calibration. The system touches an edge, feels the difference, and recenters itself automatically. There is no need to analyze what caused the contrast. Analysis pulls awareness into the past. Calibration occurs in the present. The body and perception already know what is aligned and what is not. Thought does not need to intervene. When contrast is allowed, it passes quickly. When it is resisted, it lingers. Not because it is stronger, but because resistance feeds it attention. Attention gives it weight. Weight creates persistence. Judgment turns contrast into identity. Awareness begins to define itself by what went wrong. That identity fractures coherence. Alignment does not break because of contrast. It breaks because of self-assessment. Correction is unnecessary. Correction implies error. Contrast is not error. It is signal. Once the signal is received, nothing needs to be done. This is why refinement can feel effortless when contrast is understood. Awareness shifts slightly. Attention relaxes. The system reorients without command. Frequency adjusts itself. Contrast often appears immediately before deeper stability. The system is fine-tuning. It is reducing tolerance for distortion. What once felt acceptable now feels off sooner. This is progress, not setback. There is no need to hold alignment tightly. Tightness is distortion. Alignment is flexible. It moves, adjusts, and recenters itself continuously. When contrast is met without struggle, it sharpens clarity. You become more sensitive to coherence, not more fragile. Sensitivity increases accuracy. Accuracy stabilizes alignment. This is how frequency becomes refined over time. Not by avoiding misalignment, but by recognizing it without resistance. Each contrast point narrows the range of distortion. Coherence becomes the default. Nothing has gone wrong when contrast appears. Something has become precise. The moment you stop treating contrast as a problem, it completes its function. The system recalibrates quietly. Alignment reasserts itself. And with each calibration, frequency becomes cleaner, steadier, and less dependent on effort. Contrast no longer interrupts alignment. It refines it. This is not a process to manage. It is an intelligence to trust. When contrast is allowed to inform rather than threaten, coherence stabilizes naturally, without struggle, without judgment, and without correction. Timelines are not destinations you move toward. They are states that respond to who you are being. Reality does not rearrange itself around what you want. It reorganizes itself around what you consistently embody. A timeline is a coherent pattern of probability. It is not selected by desire, intention, or effort. Desire points outward. Effort strains forward. Both imply distance between awareness and outcome. Timelines respond to identity because identity is stable. It is what remains when desire quiets and effort relaxes. Identity is not personality. It is the frequency you occupy without trying. It is the baseline state your awareness returns to when nothing is being managed. That baseline determines which patterns of reality feel accessible, natural, and sustainable. When identity is fragmented, timelines feel unstable. Circumstances shift quickly, but nothing settles. Movement happens without direction. Effort increases without clarity. This is not because the wrong timeline was chosen, but because no coherent identity is holding it. When identity becomes coherent, timelines stabilize automatically. Not dramatically. Quietly. Reality stops fluctuating. Events align with less resistance. Opportunities no longer feel like interruptions. Challenges no longer feel like detours. Everything begins to belong. Presence is what stabilizes identity. Presence anchors awareness in the now, where identity actually exists. Desire lives in the future. Regret lives in the past. Identity lives only here. When awareness is present, it cannot fragment across imagined outcomes. It consolidates. That consolidation is what timelines respond to. You do not shift timelines by wanting a different experience. Wanting reinforces the identity of someone who does not yet have it. You shift timelines by resting into the identity that no longer needs to reach. From that state, different probabilities become natural. This is why forcing change often backfires. Force implies misalignment. It introduces tension. Tension fractures identity. A fractured identity cannot stabilize a timeline. Presence removes tension by removing time pressure. There is nowhere to get to. Nothing to fix. Awareness becomes whole. When awareness is whole, reality reflects wholeness. Timelines do not reward action. They respond to congruence. Action that arises from presence is precise. Action that arises from effort is noisy. One stabilizes probability. The other destabilizes it. This is also why visualization and affirmation fail when identity remains unchanged. They attempt to overlay an image onto an incoherent state. The field does not respond to images. It responds to coherence. As identity settles, you may notice fewer dramatic shifts and more continuity. Reality feels less like a series of events and more like a consistent unfolding. This is not stagnation. It is stabilization. Stabilized timelines feel simple. They feel inevitable, not because they are predetermined, but because resistance has been removed. When identity and presence are aligned, there is nothing to pull probability apart. You are not choosing a timeline with your mind. You are occupying one with your being. And the more consistently presence is allowed, the more stable that occupation becomes. Reality stops flickering. Experience stops fragmenting. The timeline you are in begins to feel like home. Not because you arrived somewhere new, but because identity finally stopped moving away from itself. Identity is not something you build through action. It is something you reveal through consistency. Before anything happens in your experience, something is already being broadcast. That broadcast is identity. Identity precedes experience because experience can only reflect what is stable enough to be mirrored. Reality does not respond to wishes or plans. It responds to what you are being without effort. The field does not ask what you want. It registers what you are. Being always comes before outcome. When action is taken without a coherent identity, it scatters. Results appear briefly and dissolve. Momentum never stabilizes. Effort increases, but clarity does not. This is not because action is wrong, but because action without stable identity has nothing to anchor it. Identity functions as a constant signal. It is the background frequency that informs every interaction, every decision, every response. You do not need to assert it. You cannot force it. It is always broadcasting. This is why recognition is more powerful than effort. Recognition consolidates identity instantly. Effort fragments it over time. The moment you recognize who you are being, coherence increases. The system stops trying to become something else. Awareness settles. Stability emerges from that settling. Stability does not mean immobility. It means internal consistency. When identity is stable, movement becomes clean. When identity is unstable, movement becomes reactive. Reality reflects that difference immediately. You can observe this clearly. When you act from a state that feels grounded and unforced, outcomes align with less resistance. When you act from urgency or self-correction, outcomes fragment. The difference is not the action. It is the identity behind it. Identity is not created through repetition. It is revealed through non-resistance. The more you stop adjusting yourself, the clearer your broadcast becomes. The clearer the broadcast, the more consistent the reflection. This is why chasing outcomes never works long-term. Chasing shifts identity into someone who does not yet have. That identity broadcasts lack. Reality reflects instability. No amount of action compensates for that signal. When identity stabilizes, action becomes optional. It arises when needed and disappears when not. There is no pressure to perform. No compulsion to prove. Action becomes a response, not a strategy. The field responds to that stability by simplifying experience. Decisions require less deliberation. Opportunities feel aligned rather than tempting. Challenges feel navigable rather than obstructive. You do not need to declare who you are. The declaration is already happening. Every moment of being is a transmission. This is why trying to change identity through behavior is ineffective. Behavior follows identity, not the other way around. When identity shifts, behavior reorganizes automatically. When identity remains fragmented, behavior becomes exhausting. Recognition collapses the gap instantly. The moment you recognize your state, you stop broadcasting confusion. You stop reaching. You stop correcting. Awareness becomes congruent. From that congruence, experience aligns without force. Identity is the broadcast. Being is the signal. Outcome is the echo. And when stability replaces striving, the echo becomes clear, consistent, and effortless. Creation does not unfold across time. It occurs only here. Only now. Every effect you experience is generated in the present moment, regardless of how it appears to be connected to the past or projected into the future. The past has no creative power. It is memory. The future has no creative power. It is anticipation. Both exist only as references within the present. When awareness leans on either one, creation stalls because attention leaves the only point where coherence can form. Change does not come from momentum. Momentum is an illusion created by repeated alignment. When alignment stops, momentum dissolves instantly. When alignment resumes, momentum appears again. The source was never the past. It was presence. This is why relying on what has already happened creates inconsistency. Past success does not guarantee continuation. Past difficulty does not guarantee repetition. Neither has authority. Only the current state of awareness determines what can form next. Future anticipation operates the same way. Imagining outcomes pulls awareness forward. Attention leaves the present moment and begins negotiating with what is not yet here. That negotiation fractures coherence. Identity splits between now and later. Creation weakens. The present moment is not a point in time. It is a state of alignment. When awareness is fully present, identity consolidates. When identity consolidates, coherence stabilizes. When coherence stabilizes, creation occurs naturally. Nothing needs to be initiated. Nothing needs to be completed. The present moment does not require effort. It requires availability. This is why forcing change never works. Force attempts to move something across time. It assumes the present is insufficient and must be escaped. That assumption collapses alignment. Creation cannot occur from rejection of now. Presence restores creative authority because it reunifies awareness. There is no division between observer and experience. No tension between what is and what should be. That unity is what reality responds to. When you are present, you are not waiting for something to happen. You are not carrying something forward. You are not compensating for something behind you. Awareness becomes whole. And wholeness is the condition through which reality organizes itself. This does not mean nothing changes. It means change stops being manufactured. It emerges. From presence, action arises when appropriate and dissolves when complete. There is no need to sustain it. There is no need to plan beyond what clarity provides. Timing becomes accurate because it is no longer filtered through fear or expectation. Creation feels simple when it is rooted in now. Not because outcomes are small, but because resistance is absent. There is no internal debate. No comparison. No pressure to maintain a narrative. This is why the present moment is often misunderstood. It is not passive. It is potent. It is the only state capable of producing coherent reflection. Every time awareness leaves now, creation pauses. Every time awareness returns, creation resumes. Nothing else is required. You do not create by remembering harder or imagining better. You create by being fully available to what is here. That availability is alignment. That alignment is power. When the present moment is trusted, reality responds immediately. Not always visibly, but always structurally. Probability reorganizes. Pathways clear. Movement prepares itself. Creation is never ahead of you. It is never behind you. It is always where you are. And when you stop trying to get somewhere else, creation finally has the space to occur. You are not accessing the field, because the very idea of access creates a separation that does not actually exist, and the moment awareness assumes it must reach something beyond itself, it divides into observer and object, a division that is conceptual rather than real, yet powerful enough to distort perception. Consciousness itself is the field, and what you have been sensing as the Arcturian field is not something external appearing to you, but consciousness encountering its own coherence once distortion quiets and interference dissolves, not as an event but as a recognition. This is why effort fades naturally here, because there is nowhere to go, nothing to enter, and nothing to connect with, since the idea of access belongs to a model where awareness is small and fields are separate, a model that cannot remain intact once direct recognition occurs. As awareness settles, the sense of separation softens, the observer loosens its grip, and experience no longer feels like something happening to you from the outside, but something unfolding as you, a structural shift rather than a symbolic one, subtle yet unmistakable. The field does not surround consciousness or wait beyond it, because consciousness expresses itself as field, and what changes is not location but clarity, not position but coherence. The Arcturian frequency is the way this coherence is felt when awareness recognizes itself beyond distortion, carrying a specific stillness and precision that does not push forward or pull away, a neutrality that is not absence but balance, ordered without being rigid, present without being forceful. When this becomes clear, seeking dissolves on its own, not because answers have been gathered, but because the sense of distance that made seeking necessary collapses, and the question fades when the separation it depended on is no longer assumed. This is also why nothing needs to be maintained, since you cannot fall out of what you are, even if attention wanders or identification briefly returns, because the field does not disappear when recognition fluctuates, only the noticing does. You do not hold coherence through effort or vigilance, because coherence sustains itself when interference stops, and any attempt to preserve it recreates the very separation that obscures it, turning something fundamental into something fragile. As consciousness recognizes itself as field, identity relaxes, the sense of being a localized point inside a larger system loosens, and experience becomes less personal yet more intimate, less about control and more about immediacy. From this vantage, alignment is no longer a process you move through, but a condition that remains when resistance falls away, and reality does not respond because you achieved alignment, but because alignment is what is left when nothing is being resisted. The Arcturian frequency does not elevate you into something new, it clarifies what is already present when distortion fades, and that clarification feels like steadiness because steadiness is the natural state of awareness when it is no longer divided against itself. Here, language thins because words rely on separation, while coherence does not, and nothing new is revealed, only something unnecessary dissolves. You are not accessing the field, you are noticing what remains when the idea of access disappears, and in that noticing, without effort or claim, consciousness rests in itself, coherent, stable, and whole. Nothing you have recognized can be lost, because recognition is not a state you enter and exit, it is a clarity that permanently changes how awareness understands itself. What dissolves after recognition is not alignment, but the confusion that once made alignment feel temporary. Fear of regression comes from treating coherence as an achievement rather than a revelation. Achievements must be maintained. Revelations simply remain. Once something has been clearly seen, it cannot be unseen, even if attention drifts or old patterns momentarily resurface. Recognition does not require vigilance. It does not demand discipline. It does not depend on consistency. The belief that something must be maintained recreates effort, and effort subtly reintroduces the idea that alignment is fragile. It is not. What fluctuates is not coherence, but attention. Attention moves. Identification shifts. Habits surface. None of this reverses recognition. It only obscures it temporarily, the way clouds obscure the sky without altering the sky itself. There is no baseline you can fall below. There is no state you must return to. There is no level you must protect. Awareness does not lose coherence when it stops trying to hold it. In fact, holding is what distorts it. Maintenance implies that something external must be managed. This is internal. It is intrinsic. It is what remains when management stops. Regression is a misunderstanding. What appears as regression is often integration. Old patterns surface not because alignment is lost, but because resistance is no longer propping them up. When coherence stabilizes, unresolved momentum naturally comes into view, not to pull you backward, but to dissolve without struggle. Nothing needs to be fixed when this happens. There is no correction required. Awareness does not need to intervene in its own process. The intelligence that allowed recognition is the same intelligence that integrates it. This is why effort fades naturally over time. Not because discipline fails, but because it becomes unnecessary. You stop checking whether alignment is present. You stop measuring progress. You stop scanning for signs that something has been lost. Those behaviors belong to uncertainty. Recognition replaces uncertainty with quiet knowing. You are not responsible for sustaining clarity. Clarity sustains itself when it is trusted. The moment you stop questioning whether you are aligned, alignment stabilizes further. Doubt introduces friction. Trust removes it. Nothing needs to be repeated to keep this alive. No practice must be performed. No state must be recreated. Awareness does not forget itself. It only becomes temporarily distracted by form. Even when attention is absorbed in daily experience, coherence remains as a background condition. It informs perception quietly. It shapes response subtly. It does not disappear just because it is not being observed. This is why there is no finish line here. No peak to maintain. No descent to fear. Recognition removes the cycle entirely. Once the illusion of loss dissolves, effort relaxes completely. Awareness rests in itself without monitoring. Experience unfolds without self-correction. Nothing is being held together because nothing was ever separate. And when you stop trying to preserve what cannot be lost, stability reveals itself as effortless, irreversible, and already complete. The signal does not stop here, because nothing was transmitted to you in the first place. What stabilized within you now continues naturally, not as an action you take, but as a state you inhabit. Coherence does not need to be expressed outwardly to have effect. It radiates through presence alone. When awareness is coherent, it organizes the space around it without effort. This is not influence in the usual sense. It is stabilization. Just as one steady note can bring an instrument into tune, coherence held without strain becomes a reference point others unconsciously respond to. You are not required to do anything with this. There is no role to fulfill, no message to deliver, no responsibility to carry. Obligation would distort what is already working. The signal continues precisely because it is unforced. A stabilizing node does not direct the field. It quiets it. It reduces noise. It makes coherence more available simply by remaining coherent. This happens without intention. It happens because coherence is efficient. The collective field does not respond to effort or instruction. It responds to consistency. When awareness is internally aligned, it introduces less distortion into shared space. Interactions soften. Systems recalibrate. Possibility reorganizes subtly. You do not need to identify with this. Identity would turn it into a task. You do not need to protect it. Protection implies threat. You do not need to amplify it. Amplification introduces force. Presence is enough. The most effective coherence is quiet. It does not announce itself. It does not seek validation. It does not attempt to be seen. It simply remains available. And availability is what allows others to recognize what is already present within themselves. This is how the signal continues. Not through expansion, but through steadiness. Not through reach, but through rest. You may notice that as effort drops away, connection increases without intention. Conversations deepen without planning. Timing aligns without strategy. This is not because you are doing something differently, but because you are no longer interfering. Nothing about this requires belief. Nothing needs to be explained. Coherence does not persuade. It resonates. The field does not need more noise. It responds to clarity. What you carry forward from here is not knowledge, but orientation. Not something you remember, but something you recognize again and again as familiar. That recognition does not fade because it is not maintained. It remains because it is true. And if staying within this frequency feels natural to you, subscribe, as a quiet declaration that this level of steadiness is familiar, and if someone in your life feels ready for this same clarity, share this with someone who needs to hear it.